So the previous section was on presenting to you the different organizational structures. And before we talked about different strategies. And in the next one, now fourth, we would like to combine and integrate these. Yeah, so meaning 2 and 3 was laying the foundation. And now in the following section, we would like to put it all together. So then the overarching question would be, how can firms effectively align their HR practices, policies, and overall approaches with global strategies and organizational structure, with the aim there's some alignment to maximize or to sustain competitive advantage. So here we have some overview. At the same time, I'll also introduce another aspect, would be human resource management orientation. So we talked about global strategy. Remember, global, multi-domestic, transnational, and regional. And they correspond. And partially I've already tried to connect the dots to certain organizational structures. So very typical, we have this global strategy. The example was Boeing. Typically, you would have a global product division. It's organized by a product, one or two or a few key products. And then the orientation, very often from human resource management, would be ethnocentric. What that is, we'll talk in a moment. It's like we are best and we know how to best, and then we'll implement it elsewhere. And then rather the opposing point would be multi-domestic, high degree of localization. And that typically corresponds to global area division, because we want to localize, and then also the organizational structure likewise is organized by areas or by countries, so that they can respond more swiftly to local market needs. And that would then correspond to a polycentric human resource management approach, which means localization, responding to local needs. Talk about that also later soon. And then we have the transnational strategy, which would correspond to this metric structure. ABB or Siemens are typical examples, and which would be more this geocentric, everywhere is best. And we try to utilize that. And the last one would be regional based, regional strategy, regional structure. And then there would be some kind of regiocentric, also HRM orientation. So here, these are some of the orientations, using some illustrations for this orientation. Again, here we talk about local responsiveness and global integration, these pressures low and high. So the idea is here, we have the headquarters, and the headquarters has very strong linkages to the different foreign subsidiaries. S stands for foreign subsidiary. So there could be the headquarters in one country, such as Germany, subsidiary in China, subsidiary in the US, subsidiary in Poland, and subsidiary, let's say, in Spain. And here's a very strong linkage. And the headquarters has very strong control. It's a global strategy, or also what we call ethnocentric. As I already talked before, very often this global centric very often has a very strong flavor of the country the company is from. So the case of Boeing is, it's somewhat very American way of management. And that is also very common in many companies at somewhat the early stage of internationalization. Because the idea is companies are very successful because what they do, and they simply utilize their strengths when going abroad and growing further international. And then we have the opposite would be multi-domestic, or managerial orientation would be polycentric. So high degree of localization. There's a very high degree of autonomy. So meaning the headquarters, here we have the linkages to the subsidiaries, only dotted lines. So there's not a strong control. Here the headquarters controls everything. They set standards. It will be used and implemented everywhere they do, maybe also local, centralized somewhere. Yeah, but here in multi-domestic, the subsidiaries are fairly independent. They also run the independent management, independent recruitment, independent compensation practice, everything very independent and autonomously. And in the case of transnational, or the geocentric approach, trying to learn the best things from everywhere, combine and integrate them, developing global talent pools and so forth in this approach. So then we have, of course, nowadays certain trends in the industry which makes it very complex. Remote work, global virtual work Before, it was very clear. We are here in the headquarters in one country, and then there's this foreign subsidiary in another one. Yeah, but if we have now global virtual work, the lines, the borders get somewhat blurred. People can easily work together across different locations. Yet, even in these kind of virtual setups, very often it's quite clear what kind of strategy companies are pursuing, what kind of managerial orientation, how that is being then integrated. The advantage, of course, of these global virtual work is that people can easily work together, and you can take advantage from local knowledge and connect people to work together. On particular, you can think of R&D innovation projects and so forth. Now trying to combine that, we have structure, strategy, and HR approach fit. How that relates, here we focus on these three major ones, global, multi-domestic, and transnational. We can think of governance structure, how that is being managed, and also how major decisions are being made. In this global approach, it's very clear we have a very strong headquarters. It's very centralized decision-making in the headquarters, and the headquarters then develops any kind of ideas, directions, and processes, and that is being then transferred to different foreign subsidiaries, and all one size best practice approach based from the headquarters, and that would be also then very synchronized in terms of talent development. In terms of HR practices, we can think that all these HR practices are highly influenced by headquarters. So they're being developed. How to compensate people, how to motivate people, everything is then being developed in the headquarters. They may also consider some input from the subsidiaries, but still they make the final decisions. And very marginal, or if no, localization. So that not only applies to products such as Boeing, but also then in terms of performance-based pay. Boeing is an American company, then also people are paid the American way. So high degree of performance-based pay and performance-based in general, and also more flexible promotion and also layoffs to the degree possible in the different countries. And in terms of knowledge, because it's one company, everywhere the same, it's very important to have very firm-specific knowledge. That's the priority, to develop and utilize firm-specific knowledge. As the multi-domestic would be the opposite of that approach. It's very decentralized decision-making, very high degree of autonomy. Subsidiaries, they can make their own decisions, implement, develop decisions, and also in terms of talent development. They can hire people. They don't need necessarily approval from the headquarters. In contrast to the global approach, where headquarters makes all decisions, recruitment decisions, or at least approves them. And they can also develop them within and also using their own ways of training and development in terms of more on-the-job, off-the-job training, and so forth, as we will discuss later in this course. So the idea is HR practices, there may be some ideas from the headquarters. It's not completely isolated, but the headquarters, maybe they just give some ideas. This is what we typically do. But then in foreign countries, then the foreign subsidiaries, the top management and the HR, they can completely localize the way how you recruit, the way how you evaluate employees. Employee evaluation also very, very important. In some countries, they may use extensive artificial intelligence, this and that, 360 degrees, and so forth, which may or may not work in other countries. But each subsidiary then makes its own decision and highly localized. And then the idea is not firm-specific knowledge, world best practice, but location-specific knowledge is most important. There's not so much sharing of knowledge, because the knowledge works best only in one region, or that's the basic understanding here. And then, of course, transnational is something that tries to combine both of these approaches. The idea is to leverage the advantages of each, and while also reducing the downfalls of each. So meaning there's, here it sounds a little funny, decentralized centralization. It's like opposite in itself, but that's the idea essentially behind. So that the headquarters, they plays a very significant role in integrating ideas from subsidiaries. So there's more joint sharing or joint decision making, also having multiple reporting lines as we discussed. And then in terms of HR also, there are global best practices, and you try to adapt to some extent, or maybe also generate the ideas from subsidiaries and try to integrate into overall policies. And then it may also depend on what HR function you're dealing with. Recruitment is very often a highly localized function. But some other functions, maybe how to promote, develop people, there might be more standardized ways. More globally standardized, there's less localization, and that's the main idea, trying to find the best ways, high degree of globalization, global best practice, but maybe also some adaptation where and however possible. And then it's this combination of both firm-specific and location-specific knowledge. And the main idea is, here we have a fit. It depends on the strategy, should fit with the structure. And that should fit then also with HR practice. They should all be well aligned. And I mean, that's also very easily to understand. So if you have a global strategy, a strategic approach, but you have a very localized talent approach, it doesn't fit. In the long run, there is no chance for survival. In the short run, that can happen. And companies do implement change. And the thing is, you can change some aspects very quickly and easily. So you can change strategy very quickly. Top management decides, oh, now we pursue global strategy, no multi-domestic anymore, and then, you do. But it takes time to follow up with the corresponding HR practice. You cannot change how you develop people from one day to the next, because development of people takes time. Strategy can be changed overnight, is maybe exaggerated, but very quickly. So there is sometimes some kind of misalignment, but in the long run, they should converge and be well aligned. And that's what also typically takes place then in organizations.